My name is Regina.
I'm Alex.
I'm Morgan.
And this video that we're doing for the social work video number 3 is going to be about paraphrasing, reflection of feelings, reaching for feelings, acceptance, empathetic understanding, and transitions in an interview.
The first point is paraphrasing, which is restating the essence of the interviewer's statements. You should always use your own words and sentence structure. You should write in a style that is natural to you, and do not change the essential nature or meaning of the subject. It is their point of view that you are paraphrasing. There is no need for quotes, just citation, and you should know when to paraphrase. Paraphrasing is translating difficult, involved language into a simple, easy language. If you wish to summarize the main idea, then you should leave out the illustrative details. A good paraphrase is a condensation and crystallization of the client's communication. Paraphrasing provides the interviewee the opportunity to think out loud, using the client as a soundboard to confirm, clarify, or uncover new content for further discussion. It also helps the interviewer check their understanding of what the client is saying. The client might accept, confirm, or modify the paraphrase. Even an incorrect paraphrase may be a productive response because it stimulates the client to further elaborate. Paraphrase responses are formulated as statements and not as questions. The statement is effectively neutral, reflecting neither approval nor disapproval. And so this is an example of paraphrasing. I'm thinking about breaking up with my boyfriend. He has a way of making me feel like I'm crazy, and I'm not. I'm just not sure how to end it. He somehow always convinces me to stay.
It sounds like he's rather manipulative, and you're unsure how to get out. I'm going to be discussing reflection of feelings. Reflection of feeling is defined as the interviewer's statement that clarifies and labels the client's feelings. This increases depth in the interview by helping the client become more aware of, explore, and experience their feelings more fully and clearly. Reflection of feeling also offers the client the interviewer's perception on what their emotions are and what is happening with them. You can reflect upon feelings, but they are something that you cannot paraphrase. On the other hand, they're similar to paraphrasing because both of them allow the interviewer to share the perspective on the issue, which is beneficial to the client in helping them better understand the issue. They differ in what they focus on within the different aspects of communication. Paraphrasing responds to the client's verbalized thinking, whereas reflecting of feelings more frequently is in response to the client's verbal and nonverbal expression of feeling. Reflection elicits more about the event, or more information to be shared because of the client's feelings. Reflection of feeling offers comfort and security because it says, I am with you, or I understand what you're saying, or I recognize how you're feeling. Accurate reflection of feeling is more difficult than paraphrasing is. In reflection of feeling, the communication that the interviewer responds to is more ambiguous, because the client usually does not label or define their feelings. The emotion that the client is displaying will need to be translated by the interviewer. To infer the client's feelings, the worker can rely on several sources. One is the client's use of the content that is being discussed. While not naming the feelings directly, the client may talk about the situation and evoke those feelings, expressing them through nonverbal behavior. Reflection of feeling has the effect of assuring the client that the worker is striving to understand, and it has the additional effect of reinforcing discussion of feelings. The interviewer's response gives emphasis to the feelings communicated by clients and suggests they should continue with it. Workers may also try to better understand the client's feelings by using their own feelings to try and understand it empathetically. A reflection that follows from what the interviewer feels may, rather than what the client said, can make for problems. So it is necessary to differentiate between what the worker and the client are feeling.
Now we will be doing an example of reflection of feelings.
Mom just doesn't understand me. We get into fights, and even if I win the argument, she still doesn't have the face or the humility to concede that I've won.
So you feel misunderstood and frustrated.
Yeah.
Next, we will be discussing reaching for feelings. In an interview, the worker wants to know about the interviewee's problems, but they also need to know how the interviewee feels about these problems and how they react to them. As the interviewer, you must help the interviewee get to a point where they can describe information about the problem and identify their feelings. The interviewee should feel comfortable enough to share a good range of information and go into depth about it. Range is concerned with what is happening in their life that is causing the problems, and depth is concerned with how the interviewee feels about the problem. Being able to describe both of these things in detail is extremely helpful for the interviewer to get a better understanding of what is happening. The technique most frequently used for achieving depth is to ask questions about or comment on feelings expressed by the interviewee. For example, one could say, "How does that make you feel?" This question makes the interviewee think and focus on their emotions. This is not the same as reaching for feelings, though. Interviewers do this by suggesting a reaction that is commonly evoked in that particular situation. For example, the interviewer might say, that would be very depressing," or "that would make most people feel anxious." These statements are just suggesting what they could be feeling, not telling the interviewee what they feel. The interviewee then can work off of that statement to try and describe what they are feeling. The interviewer can, however, call attention to or raise awareness of the feelings the interviewee seems to be manifesting, but has not said to themselves. To do this, the interviewer could say, "You seem to be upset." When interviewers demonstrate that they're willing to talk about the feelings, this helps the interviewee feel like they can too.
This next scene is an example of reaching for feelings.
My parents are thinking about getting a divorce after 20 years of marriage. They keep fighting and they say that they are no longer in love. I know that they are better off apart, but deep down, I still want to see my parents together and actually happy for once, like how it used to be.
If you know that they are better apart, why do you want them to stay together?
I just can't imagine a life with my parents being divorced. I'm scared that their getting a divorce will drastically change my life and that I'll have a hard time trying to be happy again.
So you think your life will never be the same?
Yeah, I don't know how it ever could be again.
The next point is acceptance. An accepting and non-judgmental attitude helps maintain a positive relationship. Behaving in a manner that shows your respect and concern for the client as a person, regardless of behavior, gives the client the freedom to be themselves. The worker is not moralistic, cold, aloof, derogatory, or disapproving. Having a non-judgmental attitude suggests that the interviewer is not concerned with praise or blame, but solely with understanding. Acceptance, when incorrectly interpreted, suggests that we are entirely neutral towards all behavior, neither approving nor disapproving. But social workers are responsible for leading clients towards correct behavior. Blaming is counterproductive, it solves nothing, and increases the interviewee's defensiveness and opposition.
This is going to be an example for acceptance. The first one is going to be an appropriate response. The second one is going to be an inappropriate response to this.
I don't even want to be in counseling. You're asking so many questions, and this isn't helping me. I'm fine. I don't need you, and I'm only here because my parents are making me. So let's just get this done and over with as quick as possible.
Okay, so you don't think this is going to help?
No.
Okay. And this is the inappropriate response.
I don't even want to be in counseling. You're asking so many questions, and this isn't helping me. I'm fine, and I don't need you. I'm only here because my parents are making me, so let's just get this done and over with as quick as possible.
Listen, I don't want to be here just as much as you don't. This point is going to be about empathetic understanding. Now, empathy is the act of perceiving, understanding, experiencing, and responding to the emotional state and ideas of another person. When the interviewer uses empathy, he communicates that he understands what the client is thinking and feeling. He is attuned to the client's feelings and authentically hears what they are saying. When employing empathy, the interviewer responds in accordance with the client's feelings. The interviewer feels with rather than for the client, which would just be sympathetically. When employing empathy, you relate the client's feelings and perceptions to yourself, stepping into their shoes, as the saying goes. But it's not enough to simply have empathetic understanding. Workers themselves need to communicate that they accurately perceive and feel their client's situation. If the client can sense that the worker feels the same way that they do about this issue, and appreciate the things they experience and feel, even if they have difficulty saying it, the client will believe that the worker is the worker is responding with empathetic understanding. Empathy can be both cognitive and affective. Cognitive being, I am thinking what you are thinking, and affective being, I am feeling what you are feeling. When the interviewer gives an empathetic response, the client feels that they are understood in their situation, and this provides comfort. This is an empathetic understanding example. If I don't do good on the ACT, my parents will be very disappointed and I won't get into a good college.
So what you're saying is there's a lot of pressure on you to pass this test and to make your parents proud. I can understand that stress. The last point I will be talking about is transitions. Transitions help extend the range of the interview, deciding when to change the material being discussed and when it is appropriate to change the material. Interviewers may initiate a transition if they sense that the client is sharing material of a more emotional nature than is desirable at this point in the interview. The interviewer can change the subject if the content does not relate to the current plan for the interview that the interviewer has set and is directing. Interviewers decide for a number of reasons that a change is advisable. The first is they might have exhausted the content in discussion. The second is the content might have proved to be a dead end. The third is the interviewee might have introduced irrelevant material that does not further the purpose of the interview. The fourth is some material might have been introduced prematurely. And the fifth is the interviewee might appear to be distinctly uncomfortable, and rather than endangering the relationship, the interviewer makes transitional comments to move away from the sensitive material. Interviewers often initiate transitions to serve their own purpose rather than the purpose of the interview. If they are physically or mentally worn out from trying to keep up with the content, they will initiate the transition. Interviewers often initiate transitions to serve their own purpose rather than the purpose of the interview. They'll do this if they are physically or mentally worn out from trying to keep up with the content. They may introduce a different topic to give themselves a breather. But this violates the principle that whatever the interviewer does should serve the purpose of the interview and needs of the client. The interviewer may also shift the time reference, making a transition from one time period to another, discussing the same relationship in the past as well as in the present. When making a transition, it should be smooth, accented, or abrupt. In a smooth transition, the interviewer adapts a remark the client has just made to effect a transition. There should be no apparent break in communication, but the content of the interview shifts. One form of a cued transition is a short question or comment that leads the interview back from irrelevant to relevant material by linking the two. This is an example of a transition. The setting is, there is a 2-year-old Mary and a 10-year-old Ryan. Ryan has depression. The two kids are being taken care of by their older sister after their parents have died. The older sister is discussing with the social worker the problem she is having raising her siblings since the death of their parents. The discussion had first focused on Mary and how she is coping with her parents no longer being there.
Mary seems to be doing okay since our parents died because she's so young. But Ryan is starting to really get depressed and I'm worried about him.
Okay. I understand you want to talk about Ryan. We're going to talk about him in just a minute here. But before we do, I'd like to finish up a little bit with Mary. Have you noticed any noticeable changes with her?